All right, John, we are back once again for some top games for a specific system. This time we're talking about the TurboGrafx-16, the first 16-bit console to release, at least in Japan. I don't know how it compares. I didn't look at American releases because you're European, so I figure it's just easiest to look at the Japanese release because that's neutral ground for the two of us. But yeah, this was the first 16-bit system, and it's a system I'm more familiar with than I would have expected because I did not grow up with this thing. I heard about Bonk on occasion, but I think that's because it had some NES ports. Um, but it's something I didn't really get into until I started seeing games pop up for it on the Wii Virtual Console, and then I made a point of getting the TurboGrafx-16 Mini,
Yeah,
and that's where I experienced a lot of those as well.
I had a similar experience. I didn't own a TurboGrafx. I still don't own a TurboGrafx. But on the Wii Virtual Console, a lot of its games are just like very alluring. I remember Bonk's Adventure turning up a bunch. Splatterhouse. Like, there's a lot of really cool games that just aired on there, and it was always that elusive machine because you knew all the Nintendo consoles, you knew the Mega Drive, but the TurboGrafx was just like, what is that? It's so curious. So I ended up playing a bunch on the Wii.
I actually highly recommend checking these games out. There's some solid choices here for some great games. So hopefully these that got into the top spots you'll eventually check out. And fingers crossed, it'd be nice if this system came to the NSO as well.
It would be nice. It was on the Wii U, I believe, of all things, as
I
well.
think I think so. I
Yeah,
think
like
it did
right at the end
transfer
of
to
its
the Wii U
life
as
in like
well.
2016 or something. So the Switch is kind of an oddity for not getting TurboGrafx.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm.
So maybe in the future, I don't know. Maybe it's a Konami thing. Who knows? But yeah, shall we get to our top 10 games? Because obviously, not as many people familiar with this one. So we only had around 50-ish votes
Mm.
for all the games, and it had a spread of about 88 games. So it's definitely smaller in terms of what people are familiar with. But well, there's certainly some standouts, but there's some that are just so close to each other. It is ridiculous. Just one vote, one way or the other, would have completely changed these rankings.
Mm. Okay.
So have to keep that one in mind. Otherwise, though, John, what is number 10?
This is really tricky because I've played a decent amount of TurboGrafx games. I certainly haven't played a whole library of them. So trying to decide a top 10 versus just what I have played is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have in my mind what I think are going to be in the top 5. So
Okay.
let's say that number 10 is Bomberman 94.
It is not Bomberman 94.
Okay.
It is Bomberman 93.
Is that what I meant to say? Probably.
They're on the system, so it's completely viable. And actually, there's a little asterisk here. We have a tie for number 10 this time
Oh.
around. Both at 44 points, Bomberman 93 and R-Type.
I was hoping R-Type would be the next one because that was going to be my next guess. But both very cool games there.
Mm-hmm. So technically we have 11 games for this one, just because these two tied, but two very different games. Again, if you're not aware, TurboGrafx-16 is a shmup heaven.
Yeah.
Like there's so many shmups on here, but I've heard that the R-Type port is quite good.
Yeah, R-Type was just killing it in this era. One of the best Master System games as well. Yeah. There are so many shmups, though. I'm imagining it won't dominate the list entirely.
There's a few. There's
Okay.
a few.
Right.
I don't think it dominates, but it's a spread.
Yeah.
For sure. And then Bomberman 93. I've heard these are just solid. I think this is when Bomberman sort of kind of taking off a little bit more, where you had a bit more of an identity, where it's just more because these actually had story modes and whatnot. And I think it had a bit more multiplayer, a little bit more multiplayer focus. There's a ton of Bomberman games out there, and the differences between them sometimes are very minute. But I've always heard that 93 is a very solid version of Bomberman.
Yeah.
One of the best early ones. So I think it's a pretty solid pick. Just for comparison's sake, again, these both had 44 points. The game that came in at number 11, technically 12, um, it was only 2 points behind, and then there was another tie for between 12 and between for number 12, the spot number 12 or whatever. There was
Mm.
a lot of ties here where those were at 35. So like literally one more vote for any of these could have really shifted the balance.
We could have had a
It's
four-person tie at number 10 if with a few more votes.
We really could have. We really could have. So it's quite interesting. But anyway, number 9, John. What came in at number
So
9?
I was going to say R-Type, but that's been stolen from me. Um, there are more shmups I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with a distinct one though, a cute 'em up. Let's go with Cotton.
Ooh, nice pool there. I wasn't familiar with Cotton until people started voting for it. Unfortunately, it is not Cotton.
Mm.
It is Airzonk,
Oh, okay.
which from my understanding, because I'm
Yeah.
not overly familiar with this one, and I don't remember checking this one out. It is a reimagining of the Bonk series as a side-scrolling shooter instead.
I was going to say, is this a Bonk game? But I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, it seems to be a little bit of like a Mega Man-ish type thing, from my understanding. But it had a lot of people seem to really gravitate towards this one. He has definitely a punk flavor to it, but you look at that character, you look at Airzonk, and my God, he is so bonk flavored as far as his designs, but very colorful. It's I think it really does feel like sort of TurboGrafx answer to Mega Man in a way, from what I can tell.
Sure.
So, yeah, I also shoot 'em up sections. So there's some platforming sections, there's some shoot 'em up sections. There's a little bit of everything. So there you go. I think it's mostly another shooter, but you're an actual character rather than a plane or something or anything else.
Right.
So, all right, number 8.
Oh, there's a couple of games that I really want to say, but I think I want to save them for later. Maybe they'll appear now. Let's say Ease. I think that's gonna be way later, but let's throw it in early.
It is not Ease.
Okay.
It is another shooter. They was really getting in there. Getting our shooters in early. Blazing Lasers.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one before?
I don't know Blazing Lasers, no.
It is a vertically scrolling shooter. Very dark aesthetic. Like I see a screenshot here where you're just literally fighting a skull face in space, and there's some wild design, some wild power ups as far as what it could do. Like it looks like you're literally shooting out lightning at some points, and it's just branching off. It looks pretty wild. Like with so many shooters on the market, they had to really differentiate themselves on the TurboGrafx. So
Yeah.
again, if you like shooters, this is the console to get.
This looks metal as hell, but in space.
Yeah, it is very metal. I should mention though, I forgot to mention this before. Airzonk was only 4 points ahead of Bomberman and R-Type, and Blazing Lasers is at 56 points. So 8 points ahead of that. Again, super close between all these. But I mean, yeah, freaking. You want a metal as hell shooter? There you go. Check out Blazing Lasers. Otherwise, though, what is number 7?
Well, we've not had any pinball on these lists, so I'm wondering if Alien Crush is here. I know that's a pretty popular pinball game on the TurboGrafx.
Alien Crush is not here. It did make the top 20.
Okay,
but it didn't quite crack the top 10. Instead, number 7. With 67 points, Bonk's Adventure.
I imagine we're getting more Bonk. I think Bonk's going to recur, but yeah, I knew Bonk's Adventure would be here somewhere.
Mm-hmm. He was sort of the mascot of,
for sure,
of the TurboGrafx-16, and it's funny to think of like, what should our mascot be for this futuristic like 16-bit console? Cave Boy.
Yeah, Cave Boy with a big head, just bonks everything.
Bonks everything with his head, and yeah, it's funny to see like these early screenshots of like, because it seems so simplistic compared to the insanity that comes later with I think Bonk on SNES,
Hmm.
where they're just losing their minds with what he does. But I did play a little bit of, I forget how, but I did play a little bit of Bonka back in the day. It might have been the NES version. I'm not sure, but it's a solid platformer with a very strange main character.
Yeah. Yeah, I played a bunch of this one, actually. I played this and, was it Bonk's Revenge? Was that the other one?
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
sequel.
Yeah.
I
Played,
believe there were 3 Bonk games on the TurboGrafx.
uh,
But yeah, that's number 7 with 67 points. John, what is number 6?
is it Ninja Spirit? Is that what the ninja game's called?
Yes, there is a game called Ninja Spirit.
Hmm.
That made the top 20. It is not number 6.
Okay.
Instead, number 6 is Bonk's Revenge.
I thought Bonk's Revenge would be higher up, as in lower down even.
1 point.
Oh.
There is a 1 point difference between Bonk's Revenge and Bonk's Adventure from them being tied or not.
Damn. Bonk's Revenge is the better game. So it
Mhm.
it deserves that higher point, but I thought this would be a top 3 maybe.
Yeah, you would have thought so, but
Mm.
I think it comes down to that unfamiliarity for a lot
Yeah.
of people. Well, they didn't quite do it. It almost made the top 5. I think you might be surprised what is that number 5, but Bonk's Revenge, from what I can tell, is just sort of more Bonk. I don't know if
Mm.
they changed anything major for it in terms of
It's an
what you.
iterative one, yeah, just kind of building upon the previous, but it's better designed in like every way.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just sort of better. So
Yeah.
that's nice. Well, let's get to that top 5.
So
John,
I'll be surprised. Is it Rondo of Blood then at number 5?
it is not Rondo of Blood at number 5.
Okay. Well,
Do you want
that's
to
a
take a second
surprise.
guess, or you want me to go ahead and reveal it for you? Just
You
'cause
reveal. You reveal.
Okay. Number 5, we got our pinball, Devil's Crush.
Oh, it made it. Okay.
Yeah. I was actually surprised to see Devil's Crush get so high on this list. Like it is a pinball game, but it's also a metal as hell pinball game.
Yeah.
Like it is literally like Nintendo didn't want we don't want any devil imagery on our console. Meanwhile, look at Devil's Rush on TurboGrafx, and it's just like demon heads everywhere
Yeah.
while you're playing pinball.
It's cool that this made it though, because like every top 10 list is like the pinnacle of like platformers and shooters, maybe a puzzle game like Tetris, but pinball, I don't think is going to come up on any other system. So this is a very cool pick.
Yeah, I can't imagine any other system where that would happen.
Yeah.
I think it is just your pinball, but it's the theming I think that really carries it across. Like it is just you see these crazy looking heads pop out of the ground. You're bouncing off them. It gives it more, I guess, structure than typical pinball games where you are working yourself way through these tables, ostensibly defeating things. In a way, kind of like Sonic Spinball, just with a much bigger focus on the pinball rather than that Spinball did. So I think that if we're going to get another pinball game, we might get Spinball. It depends on how nuts Sega fans are for that one.
There is always a chance. You never quite know with them.
You really don't. I think we all had one of those pinball games back because I had Pokemon Pinball. I didn't get Kirby Pinball. Pokemon Pinball was my pinball game.
That was one that I thought may happen on Game Boy. I guess there's a chance on GBA.
Yeah, I forgot there was a GBA one.
Yeah.
There's a lot stronger. There's some really strong competition though on GBA.
Yeah, you also got Sonic Pinball Party. There's a chance that might come up on GBA.
Mm-hmm. And I know people like the meme about it, but I don't think Metroid Prime Pinball is going to make the top
I don't
10
know.
list. We'll find out. Oh God, I just had a thought. It's like eventually there's going to be enough people joke voting for Link's crossbow training that it makes the top 10, isn't it?
I mean,
for the Wii.
it's one of the best crossbow games on the Wii, so you can't question it.
Fair enough. Anyway, that's our pinball discussion. It beat out Bonk's Revenge by 12 points.
Wow.
So there it is. All right, John. Number 4.
So there's 3 games that I know are going to be here, and I'm not sure about the 4th. I think this might be Splatterhouse.
You are correct. It is
Okay.
Splatterhouse.
Very cool
Beat
game.
Devil's Crush by 9 points. It is a very cool game. You want to play as Jason Voorhees? There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, I played this
I
on
don't.
the Wii originally. Had no idea what it was. It was a blind purchase, and it's so fun. It's just a really cool side-scrolling beat 'em up. Oh, kind of beat 'em up. It's just incredibly fun. The gore is pretty wild for this era too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's. I think it wasn't it sort of raised up as one of those games that were sort of responsible for the ratings board because
Yeah.
obviously at this point it did. I think I forget exactly when Splatterhouse came out, but it certainly was before ratings were a thing. So uh, that's kind of wild. Let's see here. It came out in Japan in 1988, North America and Europe in 1989.
Whoa.
So that level of violence is wild that early in.
Releasing in '88 is kind of crazy too, because that's when a lot of Pinnacle NES games came out. Like the jump in hardware is wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird to think that it was just that early in, and I it'll never make it. Let's see here. It was on Famicom. It's never got officially released. I kind of hope Nintendo does it for the NSO, just to give it that shot. Have you ever heard of Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti?
No.
It is a chibified parody version of Splatterhouse for the Famicom.
Oh.
It is adorable and kind of just it's kind of amazing. It's like if you'd ever I think you'd really enjoy it if you looked it up.
Man, okay.
But yeah, there's Splatterhouse. That's the version we got on the NES. Otherwise, we got the really gritty shoving monsters into a back wall with a 2x4 gameplay of Splatterhouse. As you do. Number 3, John.
I'm gonna say Ease again. Ease. There were 2 different releases, right? Was it Ease Books 1 and 2 as a standalone, or were they 2 different releases?
I will say this: there were 3 East games released on the TurboGrafx. It was East 1 and 2, East 3, East 4.
I see. Yeah, so Books 1 and 2 were one release. Yeah.
Yes, because they originally meant to be one game, but they ultimately had to split it up at the time. And I think this is the version that's considered the best because it's the one that actually combined the 2 games. Because like on Master System, it was just East 1.
So is this Ease Books 1 and 2 then?
Yes, it is East Book 1 and 2.
All right.
So, yep, that made it. It was the first game. It was one of the top 3 were the only ones that crossed over 100 points. This definitely handily beat Splatterhouse with 125 points compared to its 89. And East is a series I want to play way more of. I have played again with my 15 minutes of sort of each game on the TurboGrafx-16 Mini. I booted this thing up and I was shocked because it's beautiful animation for the time. As you sometimes got with some of the PC Engine CD releases, and full English voiceover.
Right.
Like there was a narration in English with like full acting. I'm like, what?
what year was this?
I need to look that up, but it was I think pretty early on. Let's see, 1989 in Japan,
crazy.
and then May 90 in the US.
That is absolutely wild.
Yeah, it is. These are enhanced remakes of what came out before, and it was just individual releases. And it is an action RPG, but it should be noted that it's when they mean action this was before they thought of like, oh, we should have a button to attack. It is you running your character Adol into enemies and you do damage. But where you run into them at depends on like you'll take damage too, but if you get the enemy from behind, you'll take less damage and they'll take more damage, that sort of thing. So positioning becomes much more key in that way.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it'd be weird and maybe not as fun, but honestly, I really enjoyed the little bit I played and really want to get back to it.
And it's kind of the first of its kind. Like until then, you had adventure games like Zelda and RPGs like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy.
Hmm.
And yeah, it does. I know Happy Console Gamer is a huge fan of Ys 1 and 2. And I got a lot of my history on those games from him. And they seem like they hold up incredibly well today.
Yeah. I'm. It's one of those like. I think this year I want to try like at least dip my toes into one of the East games.
Yeah.
Probably this one because I have
Be a good place
it.
to start, yeah.
Yeah. All right, John.
Uh,
What is the number 2 TurboGrafx-16 game?
so I was pretty sure Rondo of Blood was going to be number one. And when you said like 5 was a surprise pick, that's why I called it out then. But I'm still sticking to my guns that is number one. Number two, I actually have no idea. It could be another Ys game. I'm just going to say Ys 4 because I do not know what number two will be.
Number 2, it is not, well, one is not East 4.
Okay.
Number 2 is Bomberman 94 with
Oh,
162 points.
I thought I just got the title wrong when I said 94 for number 10.
Nope.
What makes 94 and 93 so different?
I am not 100% sure on that one, but my understanding is just kind of a bit more features, a bit more like probably a little bit graphically interesting. Okay, so according to, I'm just taking a quick look here about what the difference is. 93 has more worlds you go to, but less variety. So 94 has more worlds, but there's more traps, more interesting map design, more diverse enemy behavior. 94 also has the introduction of the boxing gloves, which allows you to punch bombs with the bricks,
Yeah.
and you get the little animal buddies as well.
Okay.
So it is a significant enhancement over that. Bomberman 94 was also ported to the Genesis as Mega Bomberman.
Oh, all right.
So if you're familiar with that version, then this is basically the same thing.
Sweet, cool.
So it's even on the a lot of the artwork, it shows him riding on top of the little kangaroo guy, which you probably recognize from the Bomberman on Switch.
Sweet.
So yeah. So yeah. Again, Bomberman repping it up.
Two Bombermans on one list, that's always a good time.
I mean, this was Hudson's very own console.
Yeah.
So all right, John, what is number one?
Number one's got to be Rondo of Blood. If it hasn't shown up anywhere else, it has to be number one.
John, this was not even a competition. I'm pretty sure that Rondo of Blood was on just about every list, and almost all, and I'd say about 95% of those lists, it was number one. Bomberman 94 had 162 points. Rondo of Blood had 312. There was no competition here whatsoever. People know Rondo of Blood, and you know what? Rondo of Blood is so friggin' good. It is my favorite classic Vania.
Do you think the voters have played it in its original TurboGrafx form?
I think so. I think more people have played it in its original TurboGrafx form, because even the version that came to that collection that came that was on exclusively on PlayStation with Rondo and Symphony, it was this version, just the translated version that was an extra in the Dracula X Chronicles.
Yes.
Because the PSP version is fine, but then you get that classic one. It's just, that's how you play it. And this was the version that was put out on Virtual Console, so I think a lot of people picked it up that way. It's been made surprisingly available for what was once a Japanese only entry.
Yeah, this should be super obscure, but they've done a good job making it not so. But yeah, I think that the PSP was the way I played it. That 3D remake, but then you unlock the original 2D one as well, and it's just kind of like that's just kind of universally better.
Yeah. You get these fun little animation scenes that from the TurboGrafx. They're so charming. You have the voice acting to go along with it to kind of go into the story. And this is the one that introduces Maria. And Maria is so fun to play. You want to have just the most ridiculous story, and like she takes more damage, but she's so mobile and so has so much range that they just make this cutesy, silly ending for her in the game, where it's just like it completely changes up the art style.
Yeah.
And I think the other reason people know Rondo of Blood is because of its connection to Symphony of the Night.
Sure. Yeah, if it weren't for that, it probably wouldn't be as famous. But it's so cool that it just stands on its own today, though.
Hmm. Like, who's this Richter fellow? I want to know more about him since they're making such a big deal of him in Symphony.
Yeah,
And to the point where he's a lot of people's favorite Belmont. And along with Simon, he's the Belmont that got into Smash.
yeah. And some people may have only played as him for 2 minutes at the beginning of Symphony, but still made an impression.
Hmm. I wasn't there. I think there was also a Richter mode that you could unlock in Symphony.
Yes.
So that probably gave him a little bit more of
Mm,
a connection as well. But yeah, the game itself, just I think it definitely has challenge, but it's also like one of the most just inviting.
mm.
Like it's not like if you're getting stuck somewhere, if you've successfully unlocked Maria, you can have Maria sort of brute force your way through certain things, and then go back to Richter if you want his endings and so forth, and just multiple like ways the pass can go, and getting 100%, rescuing all the girls, getting the best ending. It is just one of the best Castlevania games, and I'm glad it's going to be on as part of this list as contender for greatest game of all time.
Mm. I'll ask the date question again. When did this game come out in relation to the NES trilogy?
Oh, that is a good question. Let me look that up.
So it looks
Let's
like
see.
this was
Rondo
much
Blood
later
was
than a few
19.
of them. Yeah.
Yes, it was 1993. It came out for uh, the. It was developed for the Super CD-ROM 2 system, so it was much later, which explains why
Sure.
its graphics are so much more sharp. You look at early TurboGrafx and you look at this game, and this game looks so much more advanced.
Mm.
So it was far after all of that, and honestly, I think it it was it after. Yeah, it was after Super Castlevania 4.
Yeah. And I think you can tell. I think you can tell it feels a bit more advanced in a few ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels it. Like you don't have that movement range that you have in Super
Yeah.
Castlevania 4, but I think it's better. I don't mind it. It feels like Castlevania when you have that limited
Mm.
those limited options, and the games are often designed around it, so it's not really an issue.
Right.
Uh, Crazy thing to think that Rondo came out in '93 and then Symphony came out in '97.
That's crazy. Yeah.
There is our top 10 list of the TurboGrafx-16 system. Uh, as always, I noted down what made the top 20, just in case anybody was curious about where some other choices were. So, once again, at number 11 was only 2 points behind, uh, reaching the top 10. Technically, this is number 12 because of the tie at number 10, but whatever. We're just going to call it number 11 for now for the sake of ease. It's Lords of Thunder, another shooter. Number 12 was Alien Crush, your pinball game, just alien
Yeah.
themed this time around. 13 was, which actually tied, so this is technically 12 and 13, Alien Crush and East 4, Dawn of East, tied together. Number 14, just 1 point behind those, Soldier Blade.
There's a lot of just 1 point behinds going on here.
Oh, yeah. 2 points behind Soldier Blade, Newtopia, the TurboGrafx answer to Zelda. 3 points behind that, Ninja Spirit. 2 points behind that, New Adventure Island. Another great series.
Oh, yeah.
1 point behind that, Newtopia 2.
Okay.
And then tied once again at for 19/20, Snatcher and Star Parodier.
I don't. Yeah, when you think TurboGrafx, I don't typically think Snatcher. I think it's just because in the West, Sega CD is our Snatcher. But I guess that must be different globally, though.
Actually, I am incorrect. I missed one. I was looking down through the rest of the list to make sure I had everything good. No, the actual. I apologize for this. Although Snatcher, of course, is great, and so is Stu. Actually, those are still in the just tied for 20th position. God, the ties into the closest of this is really rough. Tokimeki Memorial actually is number 19.
All right, that's cool.
So,
yeah, I don't know what platform. I think PlayStation's probably the most famous platform for Tokimeki Memorial.
I think I'm not super familiar. I know it's a visual novel dating sim, correct?
Yeah.
It's like almost the one. I think it's like one of the earliest.
Right. Cool to see it here, though.
Yeah. Should also mention East 3, Just missed it at 18 points, getting into the top 20. So it's in the top 30.
Mm,
But also it just got a re-release. That that
true. Yeah.
what's it called? Memoirs of no, that's not there's so many East names that get re-released and whatnot.
Mm,
I forget what it's actually called because it's Oath and Felgana. So it's East Memoir Oath and Felgana that just released for all consoles on the 7th.
right.
So check it out. It's an enhanced version. From everything I can tell, it's better and it's more of a side scroller in a lot of ways.
Oh,
So
yeah, worth checking out.
yeah, very much so. But yeah, that is our TurboGrafx-16 list. I'm pretty satisfied with this outcome.
Yeah, this isn't a library that I'm super familiar with, but I kind of see the ones that I didn't know so well as a way to get to know them. 'Cause I always
Mhm.
love exploring systems that I'm not as familiar with, because then you get to experience like the best games ever that you've never had a chance to play before, and they're just out there.
Exactly. Exactly. So if you have a way to do it, definitely check out these games. They're a lot of fun. Otherwise, when we come back for our next top 10 discussion, are you ready for some all out carnage? Because it feels like it's going to be all out carnage.
There's going to be some
Uh,
Cosmic Carnage, which is the name of the
yeah,
32X game.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, which I will also be including the Sega CD and the 32X. There's some good games on the Sega CD that you could maybe do a top 10 on its own, but I think it's probably just worth it just to keep things moving
They're
to
all
roll it
in the
onto
big
one.
encompassed Mega Drive Genesis family, aren't they?
Yeah, they are add-ons. They are all attached for that. So I'm quite curious how this is all going to shake out. I think Sonic fans are going to have a voice here to see how much of a voice. That's going to be interesting. So yeah, we'll see what took the top spots.
Mm. I imagine there's going to be a few Sega CD games, and we can finally put to rest the notion that it's a bad system, because it's got good games. It's got
It
several
does.
good games, and I think we're going to see a few of them here.
I've already seen quite a few in there. I'm rooting for them to get pretty high up there. Well, we'll see if it actually happens. But it's more than just. It wasn't just a Sonic CD machine
No,
or
there's way
or Night
more.
Trap. Oh, goodness. So, yeah, look forward to that. And otherwise, I think that covers it for our top games of the TurboGrafx-16 discussion. Thank you all for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/gvgaming. But even just subscribing to the channel and ringing that bell helps us a ton. So until next time, bye.